Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back once again to the Dynasty Hot Seat. It's the only Dynasty show out there that is a certified inferno, and it's playoff time. And I couldn't think of a better guest than Mr. Playoff himself. It's Evan Brown. Follow him over on Twitter at FFEvolution. Can't wait to get this going. So let's see what Evan's got to say, and let's have a little sneaky peek at some of his playoff teams. Let's get going. Here we are. Slight disclaimer at the start. Evan does not call himself Mr. Playoffs, right? I have made that up. He's not.
That's what you think.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's not. He didn't introduce himself like that to me at the UK Fantasy Football Expo. He didn't say, "Hi, I'm Evan, Mr. Playoff." So just so you know, he's not that bad. But he is very nice to come onto the show today and give us some hints and tips about Dynasty Fantasy Football and talk us through some of his teams. Evan, of course, if you don't know. You can follow him at FFEvolution over on Twitter. He is the host of the amazing Dynasty Debates podcast. And he does some rankings and articles over at the fantastic Dynasty Nerds team as well. Evan, brilliant to have you on the show. How you doing, mate? Good to see you again. Happy Christmas.
Yes, happy Christmas to you. It is a pleasure, an honor to be on the show. Definitely need to up my my game here over on Dynasty Debates. You have a very fancy intro with the video work and all that sort of stuff. So gonna have to up my game here. But yeah, we could be doing this show live in studio, but you're a trader and you don't live here anymore. So it is what it is. But yes, happy Christmas time.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, I live over amongst the Scottish, but I was saying I've done my best to come dressed as an Irish flag today with my green and my pasty white face on the orange jumper. So I tried my best.
Very controversial, depending on what part of town you're on over here.
I know, that's why I moved.
Little Northern Irish humor no one else will get.
Yeah. There's maybe one other guy's like, yeah, that's good, and everyone else is like, what are they talking about? We'll move on nice and quickly. Then we'll get into Dynasty Fantasy Football, and that's what people are here to talk about. So we'll start off just nice and simple. Evan, it's playoff season. People want to know, what do I need to do? You got any hints and tips for them to get through playoff season and to get some of those championships? We're so close.
It's crazy. It is. It's like it's all over, man. There's 2 or 3 weeks left. That's it. It's been an absolute roller coaster. So, whenever it gets to the playoffs, if you've got that first round bye, it's so nice. You know what I mean? Like you just sit back and you're just sipping your pina colada on the beach, just chilling and watching all the anxiety. But then I feel like the anxiety the following week is like double what everyone else's was because you've been so relaxed, and then all of a sudden you're like back in it. So yeah, if you're in the first round of the playoffs, I think for me, just honestly, I was actually saying on my show this week, my probably biggest hint and tip is just to not overthink it. I feel like sometimes people get into the playoffs, especially if you're one of those teams that just got in, you're like the 6th seed or whatever. There's a tendency to sort of like galaxy brain it a little bit, because you're aware that you're probably swinging for the fences here and it's go big or go home time. And absolutely, I agree with that. I will say, I do agree with going big. You don't want to play it safe because this is your only shot, but at the same time, don't be like, oh, I'm gonna sit Saquon Barkley because his matchup's a little bit rough, and I'll play Dante Foreman because he's got a plush matchup, and it's like there are exceptions to every rule, obviously.
Yeah.
But somebody like a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs or somebody who you've just been riding all year to get to the playoffs, you probably don't want to sit them just for somebody who had a really good game last week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see that happen all the time. People will they'll be like, oh, CeeDee Lamb was so disappointing last week. I'm going to play Zay Jones, or whatever. And it's like, you don't want to go down that route because, like I said on my show, it's like if you sit Mark Andrews or CeeDee Lamb or someone like that, and then they go off for like 3 touchdowns and 200 yards, and you lose your matchup, like first of all, you're going to hate yourself all year. And then also, even more importantly, your league mates are never going to let you forget about it. And that's what really matters because, we're all about the bragging rights and the, we've got to keep the face. So yeah, don't overthink it.
Yeah, I completely agree, right? You gotta, I mean, I don't know if this is the right term or not. I'm going to be butchering this term absolutely. But it's like, what is it? Don't leave the horse that brought you to the dance, right? That's not right. But you know
I
what I
don't know
mean,
what you
right?
guys are doing over in Scotland, like, but I've never heard that one. Don't
Right.
leave the
Don't
don't leave the
abandon
horse
what
that
got
brought you
you.
to the dance.
I don't know.
What?
I probably mixed two analogies there, right?
You
But
probably did.
don't abandon what got you there, right? You got to stick with the
Yes.
formula that got you there, right?
Yes. You nailed it eventually. I'm with you
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. I mean, I guess what I would say is like, if you're talking about a player, like, for example, to me, a guy like DJ Moore, who preseason we would have said is a stud, but he's had a horrible season. There's only been a couple of weeks. So he's in a different category to me. Like him, I totally understand benching him if you have a better option. So you've got somebody who's been on fire the last couple of weeks. You're like, hey, I'm going to stay
Yeah.
with the hot hand, and I'm going to bench DJ Moore. I get that. But guys like Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, guys who have been amazing for your squads just because they had a dud week last week or just because they didn't do what you wanted them to, I just don't feel like you really can afford to sit, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, these guys
Yeah.
that, literally wouldn't be in the playoffs without. I just don't think you
Mhm.
should. I don't think it's good advice to like say, I'm going to set that person, except for absolutely exceptional circumstances.
Yeah, and would you agree as well that there's somewhat of a sweet spot there as well? Like you don't want to go the other route as well and just go for whatever the sleeper projected points are. Like that's not always the way to go either. There's a kind of sweet spot in between those two theories, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's literally one of the other things that I did mention on my show this week is basically just don't listen to the projections. Like I would never
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? Because I think that's what people can really get themselves into a lot of bother with. They go in and they look and they say, "Oh, I'm projected to win 60 to 40, so I can just play it
Yeah.
safe and I'll just play the floor plays and just make sure I got my basic 10 points, per player." But the
Mhm.
truth is like we've seen every week, injuries happen. Kyler Murray goes out after like 2
Yeah.
snaps or whatever. Ramondre Stevenson
Yeah.
goes down. T. Higgins seems like he's fine and then he doesn't play. So you never know. So you want to just set your best lineup. And to honestly, for the most part, now there are little tiny things you can do at times. Like maybe you say, okay, well, my last flex spot, I've got, again, like I said, I've got Zay Jones. I could throw in my last flex spot and he's
Yeah.
playing Trevor Lawrence. So maybe that actually is a little bit of game theory where you can say, I'll put him in because then if Trevor Lawrence is doing really well, maybe I'm actually
Yeah.
counteracting some of those points with Zay Jones. But you don't want to carry that away and say, well, I'll sit CeeDee Lamb and I'll play Zay Jones because he's got Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? You don't want to galaxy brain it.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, like I said, for me, it comes down to like, is it an elite tier, like one of your stud players, like your wide receiver one, your RB1, your QB1? If it is, you're probably just going to play them unless they're injured, if it's more so like a guy you were hoping was going to be really good, but maybe they've been disappointing, that I'm more okay with. Like I was saying, go with the hot hand. If you're excited
Yeah.
about whoever, like whoever it is, like say Zonovan Knight, he's been on a real tear lately. So you're excited about
Yeah.
Zonovan Knight and you're like, well, I've got Antonio Gibson here. He's beat up. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like for that, I'm happy enough
Yeah.
going with Zonovan Knight because you're like, he's the hot hand. He's getting the work. He's healthy. He's got fresh legs. Gibby's beat up. You know what I mean? Not necessarily a great matchup. He's probably ceding work to Brian Robinson. So in those sort of situations, I'm more than happy to go with the hot hand or go with your gut. But I think it's just, let's not get carried away with our real proper studs like our Mark Andrews, our Justin Fields, our Trevor Lawrences, the guys that were like, hey, these guys helped me get here. Let's not be crazy and like, I'm going to bench him for Mike White,
Yeah, exactly. They're the horse that brought you to the dance, right? You can't get rid of
new,
them.
a new Dynasty hot seat saying, you never leave the horse that brought you to the dance.
Exactly, right. And those horses are premium studs, right? You gotta start your
Yeah.
studs.
Save the last horse for me.
Yeah, exactly, right. And let's have a little look then at some studs as well. I'm gonna pull up. We'll start with one of my rosters here, and I thought this was an interesting one because this is a team that barely squeaked through the playoffs, but it's because I lost 4 weeks in a row and was on the podium for highest points scored 4 weeks in a row and still got beaten by the highest score 4 weeks in a row. So in my head, I'm like, maybe this isn't a good team. Maybe I need to start rebuilding. But then, it is important. Take a deep breath, step back, have a look, see that actually this is the team in the league that has the highest scoring points and go, right, actually, this is a bit unlucky. I should be fine. I should make the playoffs. So let's have a little look at the team. It's a bit of an unusual roster setup. I quite like it. It's a little bit different. So I'll run you through the team from last week. That remember, this team lost last week as well. So I'll run you through who we had. So we had Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence in at quarterback, 2 quarterbacks. We had 3 running backs: James Cook, Joe Mixon, Kareem Hunt in there. 3 wide receivers: CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Justin Jefferson, who just, maybe we'll talk about Justin Jefferson a bit later. Obviously, he's one of your dogs, right? He's one of your main guys.
Dog.
Yeah. Then we had Brevin Jordan and TJ Hawkinson in at tight end. Tyreek Hill, Chris Godwin, and Latavius Murray in the flexes. And then we got kickers and defenders in this league too. We got Brett Maher in a kicker, I know, and the Eagles in a defense. So that was the team from last week. It is obviously huge. There's a lot of players playing there, but that team still lost. So let's have a little look. And I think you might pinpoint the same weakness I have in this. That running back position, bit dodgy, right?
Yeah, what did you get, about 12 points amongst all 3?
Yeah, maybe. Because even Joe Mixon there, who was so excited to put back in, didn't do great.
I know. Kareem Hunt has been one of the most disappointing running backs this year, honestly. I was all aboard the Kareem Hunt, buy low in the offseason, and he's had, I think, 1 week inside the top 15 or something like that, and that was like week 1. He's been absolutely brutal. So, yeah, that's hurtful. And James Cook has been absolutely the bane of my existence this year, because every time I have started him, he's been absolutely awful and got me like 2 points. And then the couple of times I bench him, he's like goes off for like 15 points or 18 points or something, and you're like, yeah.
And I was sure last week as well, I was like, it's going to be windy, it's going to be wet and rainy. This is a James Cook game, a lot of dump off passes. Nah, like nothing.
Nope.
It's just, So painful. I'm not sure I'll keep James Cook in there, but we'll have a little look at the team. Kareem Hunt, I was convinced Kareem Hunt was going to get traded, so I traded Kadarius Toney straight up for Kareem Hunt as soon as Toney got traded. Jury's out on if that's going to work out, but I'm not feeling great about it now. So let's have a little look. Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, I'm pretty sure they'll be locked in. Let's have a look just in case and see who the other quarterback options are. We've got Andy Dalton, Deshaun Watson as well, who's slowly, 2 weeks ago he looked terrible. Last week he looked not terrible. So maybe he'll slowly creep up. He didn't look great, but do either Andy Dalton or Deshaun Watson inspire you enough to take away a Justin Herbert or a Trevor Lawrence there?
No chance.
Nah, I don't think so.
Not even close. Like, Trevor Lawrence just had like his best game of the season last week. So
good.
It was like 40 points or something in most leagues. So you're definitely not going to bench him, especially the Cowboys. They just like gave it up big time to the Texans. So what a juicy matchup in theory. It should be a lot of fun. So no, absolutely love the quarterbacks. I think you're rocking with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll stick with those 2. Right, let's have a look at these running backs. I'm pretty sure it doesn't get much prettier on the bench, but let's have a look. We got James Cook, we got Joe Mixon, we got Kareem Hunt. So Latavius Murray is also there. He's in my flex spot at the minute, so it might be that we could sneak another receiver in that flex spot. So we got, I almost don't want to say these guys. Damian Harris is an interesting one, I suppose, right? Because Ramondre Stevenson went down, but then the other rookie stepped up last week. So, do you even trust Damian Harris?
Honestly, it just totally depends. I do if he was practicing in full, I would, but he's missed 2 weeks in a row and he's still not really practicing. So, I think because honestly, they were kind of forced into using those rookies. Like they'd only had, I think, something ridiculous like 13 snaps or something for the whole season before that.
Yeah.
So they literally were forced into using them, and they looked great when they used them. Pierre Strong Jr. I really like, and Kevin Harris I was a big fan of. So I like both of those guys, but I feel like the coaching staff, I don't like Matt Patricia at all, but I think he's very much like a the rookie's got to earn it kind of like coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think if Damian Harris was fit, if he was able to do like a full practice tomorrow or something like that, absolutely, I would throw him in the lineup, especially over, a James Cook or Kareem Hunt, who's been really disappointing. But as it stands, does he even play? I think honestly, I would probably, if he does play, if he is active, I would take the shot on him because I feel like he would get more work. Whereas James Cook, we just don't know. You know what I mean? It's literally Russian roulette, and you want to try and minimize that as much as possible when you're in the playoffs.
Absolutely. You want as little like goose eggs as possible. I don't think I've got anyone down here in my taxi, just in case I do.
And I
No,
take it
no.
your trade deadline's already passed in this league or something, is it?
Yeah, the trade deadline has passed now. So I did try and make a few moves for some running backs, but I was getting like trying to go out and get people like a Devonta Foreman, people like that, but they were already on all the playoff teams. People
Yeah.
are wanting like a high, like second round pick from like I'm just not. I'm not confident enough that Foreman would deliver me a
We'll
playoff
push you over the
win
top.
to give a second round pick for him. It's like I can give you 2/3 for him at most, but they were like, nah, demanding the second. I was like, sorry, man, can't quite do that. I mean, is that maybe I was wrong? Do you think I should have paid up a second for Devonta Foreman?
I mean, to me, like honestly, like I was saying this the other day, I genuinely, kind of like what you were saying here about you got really unlucky and you lost 4 weeks in a row, but you felt like it's a pretty good squad.
Yeah,
I was saying, I think I posted on Twitter today or yesterday about one of my favorite stories from this season is a big, massive, crazy 16 team league that I'm in. It's a 16 team super flex, tight end premium, full IDP, 53-man roster,
ooh,
insane
nice.
league. And each
Yes,
team is co-managed. So there's like 32 managers involved in this league. So
love
my
it.
co-manager is Joey the Tooth IDP, and he does a lot of writing and stuff. He works with like the
Yep,
Football Outsiders and stuff like, or the football guys. And anyways, we started out the season. We were like before the season, we were like, yeah, I really like our team. Our team's strong. We're gonna be good. This is gonna be great. And we started out 1-6. Like we literally were the worst team in the league. After 7 weeks, and we were like, do we just blow it up? Like, what do we do? Like, should we just
yeah,
blow it up and start trying to gather picks for next year? Like, because we're 1-6, this is terrible. But we kept the faith. And I was just saying, we've literally won 7 games in a row. So we've won 7
yes,
games in a row. We've snuck into the playoffs, and we're like the hottest team in the league. We literally haven't lost since we were 1-6. So
nice.
it's like you just got to like keep the faith, keep working. And for me personally, rebuilding and gathering picks and all that is always like a worst case scenario. It's like I never want to do that. I never go into it being like I'm so excited to suck this year and tear it down and you know what I mean, just gather picks and stuff.
Yeah,
So if I'm in a position, like honestly, if I'm in a position where I'm like into the playoffs or I think I'm a contender, if a second round pick is going to get me a player that I think will be useful, even if it's just for that season and really help push me towards a title, I would probably do it because at that stage now, early in the season, I understand being kind of pumping the brakes a bit because you don't
yeah,
want to like go away and throw away your draft capital and then you miss the playoffs anyways or something like that. But if you're
yeah,
in the playoffs and you're like, man, and like your situation, you've got a really good receiver core, you've got a good quarterbacks, you got some good
yep,
tight ends, you literally just your running backs are horrible. It's really tough. You got one good running back that's really performing. So to me, it's like, man, 1 second round pick to give me a solid running back, and then I have a really solid roster and I can make this run. I might have really thought about it, but it just depends. It depends on the situation. Like, understand
yeah,
Donta Foreman, he was doing really well. He got a foot injury, I think, and then he's kind of like split that work more so last week with Chuba Hubbard. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But for a while there, I probably would have been really tempted if I was in your position,
yeah,
because, like I said, for me, I don't want to be foolish with it. And obviously it's great to get those great deals where you're giving away a second, but you're getting a really solid player that you can build, count on for years. But at the same time, when you're in competitive leagues where people are actually smart and paying attention, you're not going to get those like sweetheart deals a lot of the time. So you're
yeah,
going to have to,
yeah,
that's and look at the real NFL. That's the way it works. You look at the Rams, they went all in, they gave away everything to get a Super Bowl. Now they're struggling and it hurts and it sucks in some ways, but sometimes you have to do that when you're in a competitive league. And honestly, competitive leagues are the best. They're the ones that people are paying
yeah,
attention to. They're the ones that people are switched on. They're actually smart. They're making good, because I'm in a couple leagues and honestly, I'll probably be leaving them after the season because there's a couple guys who like literally aren't even setting their lineups at this stage in the season. They're not paying attention, and you're just like,
yeah.
guys, come on, it's just not
What we
fun.
doing
And
here?
you want to be in an active league. So it just depends on, your taste. And, like for me, it's like, look, if you're going to get in the playoffs, your second is going to be pretty mid to late anyway. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So a late second isn't worth that much really when you look at the hit rates historically. You know what I mean? You're talking like
true.
a 25-30% hit rate maybe. So 1 second round pick versus a player is going to help you make that push. It's very much an interesting debate, to have.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're absolutely spot on. It's sometimes just it's so difficult to hit that accept button sometimes, right? You're just like, I can't. It's like I can't do it. And oh, by the way, anyone listening, bet the house on Devontae Foreman having an absolute slam dunk game this week. By the way, like
Yes,
that's happening. Yeah.
absolutely.
So for now, well, let's tell you what. Let's put in Harris for now, right? Will we take out James Cook and put in Harris for now, or do you think we should actually put Latavius Murray in for James Cook and maybe flex him out for somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you have any other wide receivers or tight ends you could put in that flex spot? Because if you could swap Latavius Murray up in for probably the Bills are playing Miami this weekend. There might be snow. It's another like risky one, but you can maybe swap out Hunt. He's just been so disappointing with like no excuse, whatsoever.
Yeah.
Both of them have been frustrating, but like Baltimore's run defense has been pretty solid lately. So I'm not overly confident with Hunt. I'm not overly confident with either of them, obviously, but I would probably swap out for now Latavius Murray for Kareem Hunt and then see who else you could put in your flex, another tight end or wide receiver or something. I take it there's nobody on waivers at all.
Not that I could see from here, but actually I've just noticed we've got a little wrinkle to sort out. Oh, no. Let's see who this is. There's somebody on IR that shouldn't be. No, this could be good.
This could be good. Cam Akers.
It could be. I forgot to take J.K. Dobbins off IR in some leagues last week, so I'm praying that it is.
That would be beautiful.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jesus.
Wow. This is
prayers are answered.
What do I have anyone I can put on here? Let's see. Is anyone out?
If it's just an out situation, Damian Harris, you could probably still slot in there.
Yeah, let's get Damian Harris.
Or questionable, maybe.
I don't think we can slide them in. They have to be on IR, I think. Which means we've got to drop. Which means we've got to drop somebody.
Well, I mean, I think you can probably drop Ty Johnson, to be honest with you. It looks like it's Zonovan Knight now that Michael Carter's back. Do you know what I mean? It looks like it's Zonovan Knight taking the lead, Michael Carter getting a little bit of the leftovers, and Ty Johnson sort of like third or fourth on the pecking order.
I'm right with you on that one, mate. So let's take out Kareem Hunt then, and
I really like that move because honestly, J.K. Dobbins is one of the guys I highlighted in my show this week with Colin Kelly over at Overtime Ireland. I said, I would feel really confident plugging in J.K. Dobbins if you've had him, if you've been holding on to him, because he looked really good last week and he's not even 100%. And Cleveland's run defense has been one of the top 5 most generous to the fantasy running backs in the last 5 or 6 weeks. So it's a really smash sort of spot for him. So I would be really feeling good about that now. You got Mixon and Dobbins. So you've really only got, and then you could put in Latavius Murray as your third running back. I would feel pretty happy about that. And then I saw you had a couple guys on your bench that, you could certainly flex in somebody like a Jahan Dotson or something like that. I'd feel more confident flexing one of those guys than James Cook at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. That Dobbins injury was partly what killed me as well, I imagine. J.K. Dobbins, my most owned, I checked last week, my most owned player in fantasy football is J.K. Dobbins, right? That's a pretty good one.
I mean, to be fair, if you're sitting him in the IR when he's out there busting off 80-yard runs, then you deserve the loss, to be fair.
That is true. Yeah, that is completely true. I think I got flustered last week. I can't remember where I was. I was somewhere where I shouldn't be checking my phone, but I was kind of sneakily checking it. I think I was running my girlfriend.
Were you getting married?
No, I was not getting married, although my girlfriend's auntie asks me that every weekend, so that's nice. So we've got this looks so much better, right? Latavius Murray, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins. Loving that, right? Let's move on to the main core of this team. That's the wide receivers. That's what I really built this team around. We got CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Justin Jefferson, who, by the way, just kind of casually broke did he break the Vikings reception record last week? Is that true?
I can't even remember, actually. No, I don't remember. I was so disappointed with us losing to the Lions that I wasn't listening to anything else other than the pain and misery in my own imagination.
Yeah, I think he went for 230 plus yards
last week. An absolute stud.
Just are you? So I don't know if I don't publish my rankings. I haven't done yet. I'm thinking about maybe doing that in the off season, but I do have some rankings.
You say it like,
but I'm kind of afraid to, just in case people think they're crap. All right.
Who cares what people think?
The thing I have that is maybe slightly different to others is I've got obviously all my tiers. I've got Justin Jefferson in a tier on his own. Do you think that's
nice? Right? Respect.
Right.
I've got him. I've got him and Jamar Chase at the top there. I have Justin Jefferson 1, but I feel like he's a little bit more consistent than Jamar Chase when T. Higgins and everyone else is healthy. Obviously,
Yeah.
Jamar Chase has benefited from T. Higgins getting banged up, Tyler Boyd getting banged up, and he's been, just force-fed targets. But in general, I feel like Justin Jefferson's a little bit more consistent, but Jamar Chase just has that amazing ability to have those smash, blow-up, insane games. Can turn any catch into an 80-yard touchdown, So absolutely, I think for me, it's one of those, like, I'm not going to argue with anyone if they want to put Jamar Chase as one. Like, that's not my personal preference, but I think they're both incredible. And yeah, for me, the Justin Jefferson is the one, the 101, wide receiver for sure.
Yeah, so I'm very glad to have him on this team, along with, I mean, two other guys there, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. We're not really going to be moving them, probably, right?
No, I mean, I couldn't imagine, and I mean, unless you've left Devonta Adams on your IR or something like that, I couldn't imagine you're really gonna, be sitting either of those fellas. Tyreek Hill in the flex, love that. What a flex on your team. Like, oh, I'll just leave what is he, like, the wide receiver 6 on the season or something like that? I'll just leave him in the flex. Don't need him in the starting lineup.
Nah, just playing it cool in this team, right? And so Tyreek Hill's there, Chris Godwin as well. I love me some Chris Godwin. I think he is criminally underused. Chris Godwin is getting like the same amount of targets as Julio Jones in that Bucs team. Like, what are you doing? Like, Chris Godwin is so good. Like, I think he's criminally underused.
See, I'm not a huge Chris Godwin guy. I just never have been. Like, I get that he's a talented player. But for me, it's sort of like you said yourself, like, they need playmakers right now, and they're really not using him to the full extent that he should be. And we've got to wonder, like, what is the situation with Tom Brady? Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes back next year, but he hasn't been lights out this year. He hasn't looked amazing. So I don't know how much of that is coaching and scheme. Obviously, their offensive line did get decimated. We have to appreciate that and remember that. But at the same time, man, like, Chris Godwin's the same as like a DJ Moore in the sense that, like, they're not really spring chickens anymore. They're supposed to be like in their prime right now, and if you can't expect wide receiver 1 or even like high end wide receiver 2 regular numbers out of him, you're like, well, what am I doing with this guy? You know what I mean? Like, what's the situation? But yeah, no, I mean, it's nice to have him as like a third or fourth option for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's have a look at a position that isn't looking so strong. It's that tight end position. We got Brevin Jordan and TJ Hawkinson there. TJ Hawkinson, obviously very pleased with. Brevin Jordan, not as much. So let's have a look and see who we can find to replace Brevin Jordan. Hey, it's nobody, right?
That's actually, you've got Dallas Goedert in your IR. I believe he's being activated this week.
He's not actually, is he? I mean,
I think he is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I heard that he's like. I'm pretty sure they said that they're fairly confident he's playing this week, which would be amazing because they're playing the Bears.
Wow.
Bears just give up fantasy points for fun, so
they do.
That would be amazing for your team. Yeah, click on his name. They should have a news blurb there to say something.
Let's have a little peek at Dallas Goedert and see, because that would be ideal for the playoffs. This is kind of what happened for me with J.K. Dobbins as well. I thought J.K. Dobbins was out for the season. I think I've thought the same with Dallas Goedert, and I didn't even really check. So thank you for it. Trending towards playing against Bears. Look at that.
See, aren't you glad you invited me on the show? Sorted out your roster.
I was glad even before that. But now look at this. You're just like cleaning up all my mistakes. This is fantastic. So, well, hopefully we'll get Dallas Goedert. Let's have a little peek.
What about Brandon Ayuk or something? Why would you not throw Brandon Ayuk there instead of James Cook?
I think we can definitely get someone taken out for James.
Because now that Debo's out, do you know what I mean? Debo's out, and I think CMC, isn't he a little bit beat up? Like, he's good to go tonight, but he's a little bit beat up. So in theory, there could be some nice target share for Kittle and Ayuk. And certainly somebody I'd be more interested in flexing than Cook at this stage.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely address James Cook whenever we get. I was just checking the waivers for tight ends there. Those are the guys there. Is there someone like a Cameron Brate, someone you would throw in instead of
if Goddard didn't play, I would maybe pick up like Granson. He's had a couple of decent games,
Okay.
So probably more so than, I mean, at the minute, like the Texans are literally trying to play super flex. Like they're putting Driscoll in for a couple of snaps and they're putting Davis Mills in. Like you just don't know who they're playing, what the score is going to be, how they're going to, work things. So I would maybe take a flyer if I had to on like Kylan Granson. Maybe he's had a couple of decent games. So probably more so than Brate, because Brate even like got out snapped and stuff by K. Dotton last week, and K. Dotton got a few more targets. And in general, the Bucs offense has really struggled. Whereas as much as I love Minnesota, we're a horrible secondary, horrible defense. And Kylan Granson gets to play us this week, so it could be a decent enough matchup for him.
Okay, so I'll have a look at Granson then on waivers after we set the rest of this team for sure. So let's scroll by. I'll leave Brevin there. We'll not figure out who to pick up on waivers for now. I'll have a look at that after.
Dallas Goedert.
Yes, get Dallas Goedert. We'll get James Cook out of there because we definitely don't want him in. And you're right, you spied Brandon Ayuk there.
Elijah Moore even could be sneaky play. Ayuk is playing tonight, so we're recording this on Thursday. So you'd have to put in Ayuk for tonight, and obviously you'd probably want to put him in one of your wide receiver spots and leave a flex spot open. But Elijah Moore could be a sneaky player because Corey Davis, obviously went out with the concussion, and he finally got about 10 targets last week. Looked pretty good, but I'd probably rather start Ayuk, to be honest with you, just because Moore was like last week was his first decent week in ages, whereas at least Ayuk's been serviceable and he's had a couple of decent games, Yeah,
Ayuk as well. And by the way, can we just say Brock Purdy looking fantastic.
A stud. What a dog.
Yeah, absolutely loving him. I
absolutely owed him an apology because I was like, look, I think when he first came in for, the injured Jimmy G and stuff, I think I recorded my recap episode the next day and I was like, look, I think I jokingly called the episode Brock Purdy season ? And I was like, they're not going to stick with this guy. I thought they were going to put in a claim for Baker Mayfield when he got released. I was like, they're probably going to find, somebody else off the street. They're not going to wait. They're not going to trust Mr. Irrelevant here, but man, little did I know that, Mr. Irrelevant, like quarterbacks are just a plug and play position, you just grab them off the street and they're good to go.
Man. Yeah, absolutely. Who would have thought, Evan, that Trey Lance would be the third best quarterback in that team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I'm sticking with you. I think Brandon Ayuk in my head is the guy there as well. So I'm going to stick in Brandon Ayuk and we'll take out James Cook. And I mean, I don't really want to talk about the kickers and defenders. I don't really want them there, but that's what the leagues are. I've got the Eagles against Chicago. That should be quite fun. And I've got Brett Maher in there because he was the guy that was available, right? Do you have any insight or tips on the kickers or defenders, or should we just breeze on?
No, I mean, as far as defenders, I mean, Philadelphia's got a good defense, but Justin Fields is a pretty big runner, pretty big rusher. So they have been scoring pretty good with Fields in there. But yeah, I mean, Philly's been amazing. So you can't get probably much better. I mean, probably just leave him in there,
I think so. Right. Let's have a little look then and have a look how this team is going to line up then for week one of the playoffs. So we got two quarterbacks in. We got Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. We got a much better looking running back room here with Latavius Murray, Joe Mixon, and J.K. Dobbins sitting in there. Three wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Justin Jefferson. Brevin Jordan in there for now, hopefully with, not breaking news, but breaking news to me that Dallas Goedert should hopefully be back. He'll be going in there along with TJ Hawkinson. Then we got Tyreek Hill, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk. We got Brett Maher and the Philadelphia Eagles defense in there. Do you think I've got a good shot, Evan? What do you think? Is that an all right team?
Oh, yeah. I think might as well just chalk it up to a win. Look forward to next week at this stage.
That's what I'm going to do. Absolutely. I'm going to start counting my horses before they hatch, right?
You love horses. I'll give you that.
I did. I grew up on a farm around horses, right? So I have to, gotta love them. So speaking of playoff teams, right? Let's pull up one of your teams there, Evan. And we got a strong team here to have a little look at. Then, do you want to talk us through what's the idea behind this league? We got 12-man Dynasty, half-point PPR. That's important, right? Oh, you're muted, my friend.
It's a weird sort of a team because this is one of those teams that I think we all have them where, like, at the start of the year, I was like, oh man, this team's going to be undefeated. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to lose a match this year. And
it's like
here,
every team I have.
lo and behold, I've like barely snuck into the playoffs. So like Kyle Pitts obviously was a huge disappointment. I am the idiot who traded away Travis Kelce in the offseason for Kyle Pitts. So I would be riding pretty at this point if I had not done such things. But yeah, I kind of got too carried away. But so it's a half PPR, which I don't really like. I actually took this league over a couple of years. It was an orphan.
Okay.
So I took it over about 2 off seasons ago, I think. And at the time, or maybe it was 3, it was 2 or 3. It was the Jonathan Taylor draft. It was Jonathan Taylor, CEH, and all those guys. And when I took it
That's
over,
true.
they had the 102. The team had the 102, and thankfully the
Yeah.
guy at the 101 took CEH, so I got Jonathan Taylor at the
Ooh,
102.
nice. Yeah.
And I just did wheeling and dealing and trading like crazy to build it up. I was in the
Nice.
playoffs last year. Pretty sure I got to the finals and lost in the finals last year with this team. And then just been doing some more trading in the off season. So I thought this team was going to be like gangbusters, but it fell apart in the middle of the year. But things have come back together here at the end. Had a pretty decent little run at the end, and yeah, we're in the playoffs. So it's a one QB
Nice.
league. Most of the leagues I'm in are super flex, but it is one
Yeah, yeah.
QB. I've got Dak Prescott in there at quarterback at the moment. My other quarterbacks are Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith.
Nice.
So
Solid.
yeah, it's good. It's nice to be able to just play matchups, I suppose. Got Jonathan Taylor at running back. He had his wobbles there earlier in the year, but you're not going to like sit Jonathan Taylor when you get to the playoffs. And I am rolling the dice a little bit with Kenneth Walker. So the scoring in this league is half PPR, but it's also like a point per carry. So you get like
Okay.
I think it's like 0.2 or 0.3 or something like that points per carry.
Mhm.
So nice little boost there with Kenneth Walker coming back.
Yeah.
Hopefully he should be the kind of lead dog in the backfield. They didn't look good in the run game without him there.
They
So I
look
think they certainly need
bad,
him.
really bad, actually, right?
Yeah. And San Francisco, I mean, it's a very tough defense that they're going up against.
Yeah. Mhm.
But for me, the way I build my teams, I don't have loads of like stud running backs just sitting around. So, I mean, other than
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor and Kenneth Walker, I've got Jamal Williams, who has had a good season, but he's playing against the Jets. Not a great run defense, but not terrible.
Yeah.
He's been all right. He's quieted down the last couple of weeks there. Jeff Wilson's banged up. Antonio Gibson's banged up. Donovan Knight has been really, really good.
Yeah.
But actually, Detroit, surprisingly, because we all think about how terrible their defense is in general, but
Yeah.
actually, as far as versus specifically just the running back, they've actually been really stout these last sort of 5 or 6 weeks. They're the number one defense against fantasy running backs in the last 6 weeks.
Wow.
So it's actually not a smash matchup at all for him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at last week, Dalvin Cook, I think had something like, it was like, I forget, he averaged like 1.5 yards per carry or something like
Yeah, he
that
had a
last
funny
week.
game last week. You're right.
Yeah, and it's partly down to Detroit. Their run defense has really stepped up. I've got Jalen
Mm.
Warren, but obviously you can't really trust him as one of your main running backs with Najee Harris,
Yeah.
active. And then that's about it really for running backs. So
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example of what you were talking about at the start of the show. Right? You don't want to, what did you call it, galaxy brain it? You don't want to
yeah,
overthink this, right?
you
You
don't want
just
to get
want
too
to,
cute, like that's the way
yeah,
I see it anyways. Like, if, don't get me wrong, if Kenneth Walker was like maybe a game time decision and they were just literally not sure if he was even going to play, I might just pivot and go to like
yeah,
Zonovan Knight or something like that,
yeah,
even though they doesn't have as good a matchup. But because Kenneth Walker did look really good before he got injured, and because it is a points per carry league and all that kind of stuff, I'm just gonna go with. I mean, this is why you drafted Kenneth Walker. This is why you have him in dynasties for
yeah,
times like this. So you just got to trust it. And at wide receiver, I've got CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Keenan Allen.
yes.
Keenan Allen coming back has been massive, obviously, in the last couple of weeks there for my team. We talked about tight end. I had Kyle Pitts. That was very disappointing. So I'm
Yeah.
actually rolling with Chigoziem Okonkwo this week. So he's had a really nice
Yes.
couple of weeks there, really come on strong. And I think that my other options really are Fant, who he's been up and
Mm,
down. He's okay. He's had all right
mm,
couple of okay games, but I don't really want to be like double or triple loading the barrel against San Francisco because they do have an incredible
no.
defense. So I'd rather take my chances elsewhere. Kate Otten, again, we talked about him briefly. He's kind of started to outsnap Cameron Brate, but the offense there has kind of struggled in general. Tampa Bay's offense, so
Yeah.
they've not been putting up massive numbers. Chigoziem just came off a really big week. So that's exactly what I was talking about. When you got 2 or 3 guys that you're sort of hemming and hawing between, I sort of go with
Yeah.
the hot hand. If none of them are like stud muffin, absolute like locked and loaded. Like if I had Mark Andrews or if I had TJ Hawkinson or something like that in this league, I would definitely have them in there. And then Michael Pittman, I've got him in the flex. He's had a little bit of an up and down season just based on, his quarterback play and
Yeah.
things like that. But we've already touched on Minnesota Vikings, absolutely terrible against wide receivers, like give away
Yeah.
points for fun. So this is a really smash matchup. Like over the last 6 weeks, they're the number one defense to give up fantasy points to the wide receiver. So absolute
It's
smash matchup for him. And
it's
then
the
at the
worst in
moment,
franchise history, I think, right? The last 5 weeks, the amount
yeah,
of
it's
yards given.
been awful. It's been historically bad. So, and then the last flex is Deontay Johnson at the moment. I have a couple other options depending on the day. I've got, like I said, we've got Jamal Williams there. We've got, Zonovan Knight. I've got Zay Jones, Paris Campbell, T. Higgins. But based on what happened last week, I'm really skittish about trying to put him in my lineup, because I feel like even if he pushes through and then is active again, you know what I mean? You're sort of like, he is an absolute stud. But when it comes to injuries, man, especially hamstrings, those can be so funny. I mean, look what happened to Keenan Allen. He literally missed 9 weeks or something like that with his hamstring situation. So I've got Elijah Moore as well. Jameson Williams, who had that nice big play with the busted coverage last week. But again, do you trust him enough to throw him in your lineup, especially against the Jets? Have been really good in their secondary. They're really, really solid. Sauce Gardner and all those guys.
Sauce Gardner, my favorite player in the NFL right now. What unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, absolute stud. So that's the way it stands at the moment. It's literally a situation where I'm going to leave that last flex spot with Deontay there open and I mess around with it a little bit. Like if I'm really sitting comfortable, heading into those games, I might just ride with Deontay because I think he does have a pretty safe floor. He's still getting a lot of targets, but he's not getting the touchdowns. He's not getting the big splash plays. But if I really need an upside play, I'll probably swap him out, for somebody like a Zay Jones or maybe even a Paris Campbell, because Minnesota's defense is so bad. It feels to me like at least one of him or Pittman will have a massive game, potentially both of them, because their defense is just so bad. If you look at the Lions last week, you were really happy if you started DJ Chark. You were still happy if you started Reynolds. You were still happy if you started Jameson Williams. So it could be that kind of a situation again.
Yeah, a guy there that's really interesting, I think, for Dynasty as well, for fantasy football as well in general this year, is that you have Jamal Williams as well on your bench, was it?
Yes.
He's been scoring touchdowns for fun. He didn't get one last week, but up against the Jets as well, I'm just wondering if that kind of streak continues, because he went 5 games in a row where he scored 7 touchdowns in 5 games, right?
Absolutely. And that's really the kind of situation, like we were saying, say for example, for me, the way I look at it is, so say Kenneth Walker kind of face plants tonight, you know what I mean? He gives me 3 points or 5 points, and then I'm kind of struggling. If I'm going into the game on Sunday and I'm now I'm lagging behind and their team looks really strong, because I think the guy I'm playing, I believe, has CMC. So say CMC smashes tonight and Walker sucks, then I'm in a deficit. I probably will swap out Jamal Williams for, Deontay Johnson for the ceiling play, for the ceiling outcome, because even if you look at home road splits with Goff, he's actually much better at home than he is away, and they're at New York. With that secondary being so strong, it could be more of a run game. Jamal Williams could get leaned on a bit more. So, it's certainly something, like I say, that if I'm needing that upside, that ceiling coming into Sunday, I probably will look at swapping him out.
Yeah, and that's something I don't feel a lot of people do. It sounds funny, but I don't feel that's really talked about a lot, right? That you should change your lineup based on the Thursday night games and the earlier games, right? You should take people in and put them out based on those scores.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why, and especially this week, there's a couple of Saturday games, so you probably will have a much better idea going into Sunday's slate where you stand, you know what I mean? Which means, and that's something that people don't talk about as much, maybe, and they should. Like you said, the way I look at it is, especially the later into the season you get, one of the precursors is obviously are they healthy? You want as many healthy players in your starting lineup as possible. So for example, that's the thing. Do I think Antonio Gibson is more talented than Zonovan Knight? Yes, I do, but he's beat up. And he's also been, giving away a lot of work to Brian Robinson. So if it was down to those two, I'd probably lean towards Zonovan Knight, because I'm well, he's getting the work and he's fresh. You know what I mean? So things like that. So for example, there's times where I'll put somebody in my Thursday night because I'm okay, they're healthy. I need healthy people. I'll put someone in Thursday night. Then if they do hit, I'm okay, cool. I'm in a good position on Sunday. I can play the guys I really want to play. Whereas if they fall on their face and they kind of suck, you're kind of maybe tweaking things a little bit, where you're trying to get a little bit more upside with your lineup on Sunday, because you're sort of okay, like we said with Jamal Williams, he could have a 6 or 7 point game. You know what I mean? He could have 40 or 50 rush yards, no touchdowns, no passing work. But we've seen it multiple times this year where he gets 2 touchdowns, gets 100 yards on the ground or something like that. So he could give you a really nice upside. And if you're struggling, you could maybe then swap him in versus a guy like Deontay Johnson, who we're pretty confident is going to get 7, 8, 9 targets. But this season has showed us he's probably not getting more than 60 or 70 yards. He probably, isn't getting a touchdown, and it's only a half PPR. So he could only get me like 8 or 9, 10 points probably,
Yeah. Is Mitch Trubisky the quarterback for that game as well?
I think from my understanding, Kenny Pickett is trending towards being able to play. He's just got to clear the concussion protocols, but I think he's trending towards being able to play, which is good. But even with Kenny Pickett, like I said, I mean, Deontay Johnson's not been scoring touchdowns. He's not had any splash plays. He's not even had one wide receiver week on the season, which is insane because he's finished as a wide receiver one the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. I did not know that about him. But yeah, that's a good, definitely something to monitor, right? The situation for that team. So let's do you want to run through your final lineup then for this week? For now, anyway. Of course, it'll be
so as things stand going into Thursday night, I've got Dak Prescott at quarterback. I've got Jonathan Taylor and Kenneth Seawalker III at running back. I've got CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and Keenan Allen at wide receiver. I'm going with Chigoziem Okonkwo, the Maryland monster, at tight end, and Michael Pittman Jr., absolute dog, going against the Vikings. And for now, Deontay Johnson as my final flex play, and Evan McPherson, the kicker, because this league actually does have kickers.
Wow, 2 leagues with kickers. That absolutely sucks, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, this is a team I took over as an orphan, so I had no say in the setup of the league, where I would have strongly boycotted such decisions.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, but that looks like a strong team to me. So best of luck advancing in that. And hey, couple of Scott Fish Bulldogs here as well. Best of luck in that as well, Evan.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, definitely. So, Evan, that's it. We've had some hints and tips. We've had a look through 2 of our rosters. Just want to say, mate, thank you so much for coming back onto the show again and absolutely smashing it, as I knew that you would. Do you just want to remind everybody where they can find you online again before you head off?
Yeah, if you're on Twitter, you can catch me at FFEvanLucian, and my show is Dynasty Debates. You can follow that at Dynasty Debates on Twitter, or check it out on any of the podcast listening platforms. And I do writing and Superflex ranking over at Dynasty Nerds. Been doing a weekly flex article for Dynasty just this season, just the fantasy season, but write different sort of articles in the off season.
Love it. Absolutely. If you're not following Evan on Twitter, by the way, one of the best follows on Twitter, regardless of fantasy or dynasty, just absolute great content every day. It makes me laugh every day. So appreciate that, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show, buddy. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Absolutely great having you on. And remember, guys, thank you so much for listening as well. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a 5-star, whatever. Remember, if you're on YouTube, the more likes this gets, the more chance Evan's going to get getting behind me here on the Hall of Flame. So let's see how far we can get
do it
there. But yeah, do it. Best of luck if you're in the playoffs this week. Hopefully you make it through to the next round. And hey, if you're on that bye, just enjoy chilling this week, right? And
talk
we'll
smack.
See you guys. Yes, I will see you guys next week. Keep yourselves, keep your teams lit. See ya. Bye.